The French losers in Indian War. A quick look at how France lost like 1 billion acres of land and the beginning of the end of the honeymoon between the British and the 13 colonies. Whew, that's a long title. Take a look at the map. By 1753, the French had claimed a vast area of North America. Analyze the map. Why were the French determined to prevent the British colonies from expanding westward? Nations compete to expand empires. By the mid-1700s, the major powers of Europe were locked in a worldwide struggle for empire. Britain, France, Spain, and the Netherlands competed for trade and colonies all over the world. France and Great Britain had fought many wars, and with competition over the Ohio River Valley, another seemed inevitable. How it all started. By the mid-1700s, British colonists were running out of land, so they jumped across the Appalachian Mountains into the Ohio River Valley. Ha! I see an acronym coming. Off-Road Vehicle, or ORV, equals Ohio River Valley. Anyway, the problem was the French. They were already there. George Washington starts a global war, and you thought he was a really nice guy. The governor of Virginia sent a young captain named George Washington over to the ORV. Hint, hint, that's Ohio River Valley. He was instructed to ask the French to leave, like their own land. Of course, they said no, so he was sent back to build a fort right where the French had already built one. He led a surprise attack on the French and their Native American allies and managed a small victory. Later, he was surprised when he got whooped by 700 French and Native Americans, and he was captured. He was later released, however, and sent home, but the French and Indian War had already begun. The Albany Plan of Union. While the war was being fought, delegates from colonies met to form an alliance with the powerful Iroquois League, which would be beneficial to the English. During the meeting, Benjamin Franklin suggested that the colonies unite under a single government to organize the war effort. His plan was called the Albany Plan of Union. Delegates voted to accept the plan. However, colonial assemblies were far too independent-minded to do so. All voted against it, but it showed at least a willingness to discuss a unified nation. Take a quick look at the graphic on the left. You'll see Benjamin's quote, "Everyone cries a union is necessary, but when they come to the manner and form of the union, their weak noodles are perfectly distracted." Take a look at the banner that Benjamin Franklin used to support his plan for a unified government. Look at the initials that you see on the different parts of the snake. Try to figure out what they mean. Try to figure out why the snake is all cut up. And take a look at the caption below it, "Join or Die." We will be analyzing this graphic a little bit later. Okay, Albany Plan of Union. Here's a quick timeline or situation action plan, and basically the outcome, why it failed, and explanation. You need to analyze this chart. The Albany Plan of Union proposed a single government for the 13 colonies to defeat the French. Why would competition among the colonies keep them from supporting a central governing body? It don't look good for the Brits. Early on, the French kicked the Brits' butts. At Fort Duquesne, the French launched a surprise attack on the British. British General Braddock was fatally wounded in the attack. Defeats near Lake Ontario and Lake George strained the alliance with the Iroquois. The Iroquois had sided with the British, hoping that they would win and allow them to keep their lands. The French lose again. In 1757, William Pitt became Prime Minister of Great Britain. He's like their president. His goal was to win the war in North America and then concentrate on winning in other parts of the world. He promised colonists lots of money if they would help out by fighting and providing supplies. There's your timeline of the French and Indian War. Analyze charts. When and why did the tide of the battle shift in favor of the British? The Plains of Abraham. During the next 2 years, 1757 to 59, the British began to turn the tide of the war. They set their sights on Quebec, France's largest city and the capital of Canada. The city sat atop a large plateau with a steep cliff on one side and a large army of defenders on the other. The British pulled off a daring plan by scaling the steep cliff during the night. In the morning, 4,000 redcoats were ready for battle on the Plains of Abraham. The battle lasted all morning, and both armies' generals were killed. In the end, the British defeated the French and captured Quebec. Treaty of Paris, 1763. The year is really important. While the war pretty much ended in North America, it drug on for several more years in Europe, but the British eventually won. In 1763, the Treaty of Paris officially ended the war. The effects on France were devastating as they were forced to cede all but a few North American lands to the British, including the Ohio River Valley and Canada. They were allowed to keep 2 islands in the Gulf of St. Lawrence and their sugar-growing islands in the West Indies. A weird twist of fate. Spain entered the war late, but on the losing side. That's the French, of course. Remember, they hated the English as well. So they had to give Florida to England. But for some strange reason, they were allowed to take all of French lands west of the Mississippi River, as well as the huge port of New Orleans. Go figure. Here is a before and after map. Before 1754, before the French and Indian War, and 1763 after. Take a look at this map and look at the stark differences in territory. Okay, what does it tell you about the British Empire in the mid-18th century? What happened to France's possessions? And how did the balance of power in North America shift between the British, the French, and the Spanish? Oh, and take a look up here. What the heck is this thing right here? We will soon find out.